welcome to Pompously Political.
Can we just admit that religion's fucking crazy?
One may ask himself, what does it mean to be batshit crazy?
That's really funny.
Okay. Clearly we got some echo issues, so fuck that intro.
Yeah, that was fun. Anyways, welcome to another exciting edition of Pompously Political, where technical issues are the name of the night. As always, I am your whatever the fuck I am. I'm Scott.
Yay! Hey, Scott. I am Jimmy, the technically challenged person that would so graciously love for somebody who is technical savvy, tech savvy, however you want to put it, to just pull the trigger and put me out of my misery. I can't pay you.
That's an awfully drastic step.
Yeah, I can't pay you in monetary value, but maybe I give you some like a Subway card or something.
We have we do.
Yeah. So we could totally do something along those lines. Yeah, that's going to be the next step in this.
So, outside of your suicidal desires, Jimmy, how's your life going?
You know, it may sound like I'm suicidal, but only in a tech sort of way. I'm actually doing pretty well. I'm doing all right. You know, just trying to get through finals. It's the week before finals, which is usually the time where you're probably pulling your hair out a little bit more. I'm sure you remember those days, Scott. It's not that far in the past for you. And I'm almost.
Finals worked different for us. It wasn't really challenging, I guess.
Mine's a pain in the ass in the sense that everybody thinks that they're the most important class that you'll ever take. That's the way college, like university goes. So they're like, you know, they expect that you're going to pay attention to their 12-page paper as opposed to all the other shit that you have to do. So they're like, yeah, here's 6 books to read, 12-page paper. All the while we're going to give you a final at the same time. So, and that's just one class, and you're just like ready to, you know, lose your mind a little bit. But I'm actually, you know, when it comes to university or school, you can either sink or swim, and I'm actually swimming right now. There's very little sinkage going on, so that makes me happy.
That's good. I'm a little envious, a little not. Like the University of Phoenix experience was, you know, it's tailored to adults who are working and doing school. So there's not really finals or anything like that. I am a little envious. I wish I could have experienced the finals week that everybody talks about. Maybe just a couple times just to see what it's all about. But I also didn't have all the interaction with people that really kind of makes the college experience. So I missed out on that, but I got my degree. It's a piece of paper. That's really what everybody cares about. But
for sure. And trust me, yeah, you're not missing much. If anything, it's kind of like going, you know, I've never had my penis sliced open. You know, maybe I should have that experience in my life. No, you shouldn't. just say no. Just say no to penis splicing.
Indeed.
I don't know why I gravitated. Maybe it's because there's a video I watched of. It's completely off topic, but I watched a video. So I Love Science page. The I Love Science page posted what gender reassignment surgery looks like. It's an animated thing, and it totally blew my mind. So if you really want to like expand your understanding of what transition is and how brave an individual must be to go through that, that's one way to do it. So maybe that's why I get genital mutilation on my brain.
All right, and thank you, audience members who are watching. I have determined that Pompously Political will now create a list of topics we'll never discuss on air again, and gender manipulation surgery and penis splicing is definitely going to be on that list. So you never have to suffer through what we just went through with Jimmy.
Yeah. Hey, speak for yourself. That might be an interesting Pompously Political if we were to actually show that video to people.
I might call in sick that week.
Yeah. Oh man. Speaking of calling in sick, obviously because of finals week, I was unable to record yesterday. So, we're trying to get through this school thing the best as possible. But we do have some news to go through, obviously.
I haven't even asked me about my week. What the hell?
Oh, what? What? I
So-
totally. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I thought it was helping. Please don't be mad at me, Scott. Please don't be mad.
Well, nothing really happened in my week. There was the baby, and then there was sleep. That my wife is suffering more with the sleep deprivation than I am, but we have a system worked out. But it's not really sleeping anymore. It's just kind of naps, just always napping. It's interesting. But it is that time of year. Do you know what time of year that is?
The corporate spending monstrosity that is known as the holidays. Is that what you're referring to? I just got my Occupy Wall Street.
Well, I mean, we are there, but what I'm referring to is a little something I'm gonna showcase tonight. You have your sinful sandwich Sundays. This episode I'm gonna dedicate to holiday cookies.
Holy cow!
Had my mom down for the birth, and she was able to help out with that. And while she was here, she made my two favorite holiday treats from growing up, which I'll pull those out here in a little bit while we're talking. So she made those for me, which made me a very happy boy. And then my mother-in-law came over a couple days ago, and she had gone to a church function where everybody had made cookies and brought them in, and that's what the bin I just held up was. So lots and lots of holiday treats. But then there's also, and I've only seen this down here. I've never seen this in any other part of the country, and I set it on a hot computer so it's melting. But we have, like, I guess fancy chocolatiers or whatever the hell they're called down here that make these really nice chocolates that are all decorated and stuff. And then when you eat them, they're always filled with different ingredients and things.
Okay.
Like, I think this is like a
you don't-
mint bean or something.
So you got to make sure you don't get a vindictive chocolatier, is what you're saying, because you might bite into it and find something like toothpaste or something. Like, oh shit.
That'd be me.
Whenever I think of that, it's like I guess it's like the Valentine's 10 is where it's most common, but those bins that have all the different chocolates in it. What is it? Russell Stover, is that the company?
Yep.
I don't know. But yeah, you get the little heart-shaped thing that has the candies in it, the chocolates in it. You bite into it, and it's kind of like a mystery sort of thing. And then some of them taste like garbage. You're like, why did I eat that? The other ones are really good. So it's in that pursuit of surprise that you really hope you have a significant other that likes to be surprised. Otherwise, she's gonna be disappointed. She's gonna bite into a chocolate and be like, "What the hell is this?"
Yeah. Well, fortunately for me, my wife hates chocolate, so that all the chocolate is mine. All right. So before we jump into the first topic tonight, because we've been BSing for 10 minutes, we're gonna cover one of my favorite holiday treats, since we are, and it's not much to look at, and I don't even really remember the name, but
You might have to describe it a little.
it's called sugar candy, I think.
Sugar candy.
So if you're looking, you see like the white there. Basically, that is sweetened condensed milk and confectioner's sugar that has been melted down and turned into like a paste, and then you lay the paste out, kind of like you were making sushi.
Okay.
Put peanut butter in the middle, and then roll it.
It kind of reminds me of that. What are those candies? Not cowtails, but there's another one. It's a little roll like that.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
It's like a caramel. It's like a caramel sort of thing.
I don't know, but this is incredibly sweet, but it's delicious.
It looks good. You'll have to describe the experience for me, because I obviously can't participate in your candy chocolate eating stuff. So. You
It's
know, the snozzberries taste like snozzberries.
the hint of the peanut butter that comes in and makes it very creamy. So it's good.
Nice.
Cool.
Cool.
So with that, what's the first topic you'd like to do tonight?
Okay. Well, obviously, I do want to touch on, of course, later after we cover the news, the topic of Islamic fundamentalism and the stifling of legitimate criticism in favor of political correctness. I know that sounds like a mouthful, Scott, but it's a big topic that
She said.
I am wanting to get into. Literally, that's what she said. But we'll explain that joke later. First, the news, man. There's been some crazy shit in the world, and I know you've been kind of shut in, because you just had a baby and whatnot. But are you aware of this this attack that took place on the? There was the San Bernardino attack, and then there was also the Planned Parenthood attack.
I'm aware of both. Which would you like to discuss first? I think we did
Well,
San Bernardino last week, though, didn't we?
We might have, but there's been some updates to it. When we covered it, if we did cover it, which we cover a lot of shootings, I know that sounds terrible that we're like, which shooting was it? Which one did we cover? We're having that many shootings, apparently. But of course, there was the update, so I guess we'll go in the San Bernardino first. There was an update that the individuals that were involved were somewhat radicalized as far as Islamic extremist sort of ideology.
That's the understatement of the year.
Yeah. I'm trying to, lead into it, but essentially they were at a work function, like a work party, and got up and left and then came back and shot everything up. They were well equipped. They had tactical gear. There was some discussion in the sense that they were legally purchased firearms.
Thousands upon thousands upon thousands of rounds.
Right. Which there was some discussion in reference to the fact that California itself is a gun control state. AR-15s, which were supposedly used in this attack, are illegal. So people were questioning how are they legally purchased. Well, if they are in fact AR-15s, I haven't seen anything to suggest okay, I just lost my brain. But anyways, if they were AR-15s, they could have been bought in the neighboring state of Nevada and brought in. The other aspect is there is what's called an FAR-15, which is the legal version to be sold in California. So they look almost identical, the FAR-15 and the AR-15. So it could be people basing off of pictures thinking that it is an AR-15 when it really is an FAR-15. All we know is that they were legally purchased. But the discussion is kind of taking a weird turn, Scott. I don't know if you noticed. Obviously, I'm focusing on the gun control bit. It went from that it being a shooting, a mass shooting, to now a discussion about Islamic extremism. And, of course, leading into that was Donald Trump's comments about Muslims in the country. So
all kind of one big intertwined.
Right.
We did talk about it last week because we did talk about Planned Parenthood. I remember some comments that we made about the radicalized Christian right, which is what was responsible for the Planned Parenthood shooting. There's also been some events after Trump's comments, which a lot of the news stories that I had picked out this week, and I think a lot of them that you had, they're all kind of intertwined in one way or another, which really comes back to the topic of the night, which is, once again, a discussion of Islamic extremism. How do we approach this problem without ostracizing entire groups of people? Because that's the plan. The terrorists win whenever we do that.
Right.
I had that discussion with my wife the other night. Actually, it might have been earlier today. Time is irrelevant at this point, but we had the discussion about, it's been well publicized at this point what Osama bin Laden's goal was, what has become the goal or what was the goal of Al Qaeda, what has become the goal of ISIS, and it's really kind of what we're starting to see. For all intents and purposes, I use that comment jokingly, but for all intents and purposes, it's an accurate statement. This is how the terrorists win. Whenever, and I'm noticing the camera bouncing now, and it's throwing me off.
I feel like I'm on drugs while I'm watching you bounce. I'm like, whoa, what's happening?
The intent of radical Islamic extremism, as stated by bin Laden, by Al Qaeda, by ISIS, is to separate the world. There's going to be the Muslims, and there's going to be everybody else. That is their intent. That's what they want. And when they conduct these attacks, and we respond to these attacks with such harsh criticism against the religion as a whole, and I am by no means saying that criticism isn't warranted, it isn't necessary. I'm very divided on this issue myself. But when we do that, we ostracize Muslims as a whole. And the intent of ISIS is to take Muslims who are feeling put out, who are feeling ostracized in that matter, and be like, to present to them an alternative. Well, they don't want you, but we do. We're happy to take you as a fellow Muslim brother. And the long end state, which I don't think we'll ever get to, is the 2 to 3 billion Muslims in the world versus the 3 to 4 billion of everybody else, who's not going to be organized under any type of central tenet. That's the goal. So keep that in mind as we go through the discussions tonight. I just want to lay that out up front so we can keep that in mind while we're going through.
Right. And make no mistake that when it comes to the discussion of Islamic extremism, please don't think that we are judging as a whole the people of Islam. In the video that I'm going to show later on, we are going to show a video, or parts of a video, because it's a very long video. But the discussion in video is Islam versus Islamism, or Islamic fundamentalism, because there is a difference. Islam has many shades of its own religion. There are moderates within it, just like there are moderate, people within Christianity and so forth. So make no mistake that we are judging everyone and generalizing everybody into a homogenized definition, which is the goal of groups like ISIS and so forth, is to isolate it and put it into terms of us versus them. But before we get to that, I think we should address Trump real quick. The guy that you and I had both speculated that he was going to fall off and fade away. And much to our surprise and a little disappointment, he's still around. And he's still leading in the Republican polls. Whether after his comments about Muslims will adjust that, who knows? I've thrown out all the window as far as this whole political, campaign goes, because it's unusual. This election cycle is unusual, to say the least. But his statements in particular, he said a couple of things. First of all, he supported, of course, forced deportation, much like he is with the Hispanic population, making them easy to identify, as in wearing a badge, kind of like a yellow star, and so that you can pick out Muslims from everybody else. If that sounds a little Hitlerish, then you kind of caught my tongue-in-cheek sort of aspect to that. It's because it is. It's very Hitlerish, and which he doubled down and was like, you know what, man, I don't freaking care what you think. And then, of course, he made comments in reference to internment camps as well. Particularly that in World War II, he thinks that he might have supported internment camps for, Japanese Americans in wake of Pearl Harbor. That's kind of the road he's going down. This fear-mongering, fascist sort of rhetoric, divisive. He's very divisive, which I don't understand. I don't understand what his popularity is.
I don't think he understands it either, because the comments that he's making is very us versus them. Is very Christian for my background in Christianity. How very Christian of him is what I'm trying to get to. He keeps making statements like this that anyone who has any semblance of intelligence looks at and says, well, that ruined his political career, and somehow it doesn't. Somehow he's still going. What is becoming more apparent, you see it, you've seen it for many, many months now on national news programs and with the pundits on Fox and CNN talking about Obama, or not Obama, sorry. There's a thing, I have Facebook pulled up on the other side, and there's a big Obama article right there. When Trump makes these comments, they're very polarizing. They're very attention-getting, and no news is bad news, or no, all press is good press, whatever the saying is.
Right.
So he's keeping his name out there, at least in that sense. But what is spreading from the major organizations to more local, like local newspapers and things like that. And I say this because my mom brought a newspaper from, I believe she brought one from Southern Illinois, where he had done a speech there. And even the reporters there had started talking about, well, he came out and gave a speech, but he didn't really say anything. You know, he did his controversial stuff, and he said he had a plan, but he didn't talk about his plans. He doesn't have plans. And I think as it starts to become more and more apparent that he doesn't have a plan, he doesn't know what he's going to do, he's just talking to talk and to generate his name, keep his name at the forefront of the media circus, he'll stay atop. He doesn't need a plan, essentially. We're all flocking over him and talking about him. When was the last time Rubio said something that we were talking about this much? What about Bush? What about Santorum or even Sanders at this point? Nobody is staying at the top of the news like he is. I think that's the key to why he's ahead right now. But it's not going to last. I cannot see this lasting at all. There is no way that you can call out, was it 8 million Muslims in America, and say
2% of the population is.
Yeah, 2% of the pop. You can't call out 2% of the. Now he's not as bad as Mitt Romney's 47% comment, but 2% of the population, and ostracize them and talk about what deporting them, and nobody who's Muslim will be allowed into the country. Or I'm not 100% sure what it was he said. I'm just trying to. I get the gist of it from reading through some of these articles. You can't keep momentum like that. There's no way. Eventually, we're going to get tired of him, and the real front runner for this, for the Republican Party, is going to come out.
I hope you're right. I mean, you're basically echoing my argument for the past since he's been in this race. I've been on vocalizing the same sorts of things you're vocalizing now, and it's just peculiar, man. I would have thought that he would have trailed off by now. But he's still there. And then, of course, Ben Carson rises for a short period of time. He had his limelight, but then he quickly lost that, and it went back to Trump.
Once everybody found out he was completely full of shit.
Right. They were all upset that he apparently lied about stabbing somebody or supposedly stabbing somebody. Some crazy shit. I don't know. The guy's nuts. They're all nuts. That's the problem. But
sadly, Ted Cruz is in second spot right now.
Yeah, he's risen. Have you seen the crazy how to put it? The Daily Show put it on there. Which essentially it's him trying to make like campaign video, like make a like I don't know if you saw the Obama one when Obama was running, but it was basically like trying to humanize him, make him a person, so forth. More relatable to voters. Well, Ted Cruz is tried his hand at that, and they're actually like coaching him about hugging. Like, okay, hug her a little bit longer. Okay, look like you love her. Like hugging his mom. Like it's ridiculous. And they made one that made it look like a sitcom.
Mm-hmm.
where it's like Ted Cruz's wife is like, when I first saw him, I thought he looked like a 1950s movie star, and then like they get a laugh track in there, and it's like, ooh, you know, and it's got the Full House letters popping up for their names. Yeah, it's ridiculous, and I implore every single one of you, I recommend you to go out there and watch that Ted Cruz reel. It's like hours and hours of just ridiculous. You probably should smoke something illegal in some states, and then watch it for hours because it'll blow your mind. But yeah, kind of referencing the Trump bit here. I know we're giving this guy more time than he really deserves. Here's the thing with this guy. You touched on the fact that he has no, that he doesn't have a plan. But let me offer this contrary. He does have a plan in certain aspects, like him deporting 100,000 immigrants, illegal immigrants, every month. He wants to do that by essentially doing the Operation Wetback was referenced. That is essentially he would have National Guardsmen and so forth go door to door, grabbing illegal immigrants and throwing them out the country, essentially.
Busting them out. Called Operation Wetback?
The full details of it, there was an Operation Wetback that took place, I believe, during the, was it the Truman administration? It is essentially what they did was it was a forced deportation effort where many people lost their lives, and it's one of the more you probably haven't heard of it for the simple fact that it's one of our more disgraceful times in history, much like the internment of Japanese.
And this goes back to it was John Oliver that did the bit about these fucking Republicans and conservatives that keep coming out with, well, we want to, Trump's campaign slogan, let's make America great again. Let's go back to these great times. And now we're coming back to fucking World War II internment. That's what we want to do. We want to go back to that level of greatness, which is now regarded as one of the most disgraceful periods in our history. The sheer fucking stupidity is mind-boggling. Sorry for all the F-bombs, but seriously, come the fuck on.
Well, the part of the problem is, Scott, is we haven't learned a better way to respond to instability, to respond to times of crisis, such as the bombing of Pearl Harbor, 9/11. It all echoes the same thing, and because we haven't learned a better way to handle it, we keep doing the same sorts of things. We don't even have to be attacked. France can get attacked, Syria can get attacked, and immediately in America, we're trying to forget the fact that we tried to, take French out of every. We called freedom fries for a while because we hated France, but now we're like, no, we love you, France, we love you. You're just like us. You had a 9/11 style event. You're like one of us now.
Ours was bigger. Make no mistake.
Oh yeah. When it comes to the terrorism dick measuring, America's dick will always come out bigger, according to America, of course.
On that note, take a look at this beautiful peanut butter chocolate. You see the swirls on there?
Oh wow, that is gorgeous.
See, well, there's peanut butter and jelly. Let's see what's in the middle.
Okay.
Oh wow, that's holy. What the fuck? I think that actually is peanut butter and jelly in there.
Nice.
I'm gonna eat this, but I'm never gonna eat this again after this.
I like that. I like that you segued from dick measuring to chocolate. You're like, speaking of dick measuring, let's take a look at. I'm like, no, Scott, no, this is not the time, not the time. So I'm glad you showed chocolate in that incident. That might have been weird. But you're like, yeah, I haven't slept in so long, James. I haven't slept in so long. I'm losing my mind. Yeah. So, peanut butter and jelly chocolate.
That was terrible. That might have been the worst one I've had yet. I love peanut butter and jelly. I really do, but God, that was awful.
Let me ask you a question. I know we're getting off the political thing here, but obviously the topic's going to get really heavy real quick. So, when you were younger, and your parents were making
I touched
lunch for
myself at night. I'm sorry. I know baby Jesus cried every time I did it, but couldn't resist.
No, Scott, I wasn't asking about your masturbatory habits. I was going to ask you about peanut butter and jelly, because I went through this phase when I was younger where I loved peanut butter and jelly. I loved it with a passion. But it seemed like because of this love, I was given peanut butter and jelly all the time. And then I found out, through like socialization of peers, that peanut butter and jelly wasn't cool. And I had to pretend like I didn't like peanut butter and jelly because I didn't want to seem uncool. That was the problem. So did you ever go through this phase where even though you loved peanut butter and jelly, that you felt the need to downplay your or your affinity for peanut butter and jelly?
My peanut butter and jelly was Pokemon.
Oh, okay.
The hot girls at school, the cool girls who sat next to the band, thought I was the biggest nerd ever. So I loved playing Pokemon. I just had to hide it when they were around. I didn't want them. I told them that I quit. I didn't want them to think that I was still playing it. Not that I ever had the slightest bit of a chance with them, but whatever. I was trying. The weirdest peanut butter and jelly, though, is my wife. When she was growing up, if she did peanut butter and jelly, it had to be grape jelly. She wouldn't eat anything that had anything other than grape jelly on it. Had to have the crust cut off. She would literally starve herself rather than eat a peanut butter and jelly sandwich that didn't have grape jelly and had crust. Like, her dad would send her to school with a peanut butter and jelly sandwich with like strawberry jelly, and she would refuse to eat. So the people at school would have to remake her another sandwich to make sure that she would eat.
Wow.
And to this day, she will not touch it.
Why didn't you just take the crust off? That seems better than starving yourself. Like if say if it's grape jelly, right? Let's say that the one transgression of having the crust on, that was the only transgression in the sandwich. Why not just take the crust off then? Like that would have been my sort of answer to solution to that. And then
it's my wife. Sometimes it's just better not to ask.
I just imagine your wife grabbing the sandwich, like holding on to it till she got home and throwing it in her dad's face and being like, "What is this? What is this?"
Well, her dad's like 70, so
Are grapes red, Dad? Are grapes red? I don't fucking think so. Just grabbing it and smearing it on his face, and she's just totally mad. Like a diva.
I wouldn't put that too far beyond her. That's definitely within her repertoire. All right, so the next piece of holiday candy we're going to go over, my absolute favorite. So easy to make. It looks like a turd.
Nice.
There you go. It is a sweetened condensed milk with a bag of semi-sweet chocolate chips melted down, and then you mix in crushed up pecans into it, and then you just take out spoonfuls and let them dry, and they're so good. So good. I could eat those every day for the rest of my life. They're so good.
Oh man. Until we have to wheel you out of your house.
Might. All right. So Trump's an asshole. People died in California.
Right.
And we got to get to our topic of the day.
Okay.
Radical Islam. How do we approach this? How do we avoid ostracizing an entire group of billions of people? While also having a meaningful discussion about the problems that they're posing.
That is where I begin the discussion. I can hear myself, by the way. That's crazy. It's a crazy thing. There we go. I can still hear myself. I don't know. Whatever. Okay. There we go. Problem solved. Anyways, to start this off, let me introduce the person to be. Scott has figured it out, ladies and gentlemen. With that being said, there's a person by the name of Mariam Namazi. Scott and I were just talking about this person. She's much in the same vein as the Hirsi Ali, in the sense that she is a former Muslim who is now an atheist. She's escaped Islam, if you will. It is now a vocal advocate for women's rights in Islam, or is in the Islamic world, I guess, and also discussing Islamic fundamentalism, Islamic extremism, and this very issue that we're about to discuss. To set this up, to set up the discussion, Mariam Namazi, I messed her name up. Mariam Namazi was invited to speak at Goldsmith University of London by an atheist group that's involved. She graciously accepted the honor to come and lecture, guest lecture. But of course, the Islamic Society at Goldsmith did not like that she was going to come and speak. So they sent a letter initially to the group, to the atheist group, that echoed these words. As an Islamic society, we feel extremely uncomfortable by the fact that you have invited Mariam Namazi. As you very well probably know, she is renowned for being Islamophobic, and very controversial. Just a few examples of her Islamophobic statements. She labeled the hijab a religious symbol for Muslim women, a flag for far-right Islamism. Also, she went on to tweet, "They are body bags for women." That is just two examples of how mindless she is and presents her lack of understanding and knowledge about Islam. I could go on for a while if you'd like for further examples. In this letter, I won't read the whole thing, but essentially they're trying to use the university's policy of safe places in order to not have her speak on campus. The startling aspect of this is that the Islamic Society was then backed by the LGBTQ group on campus, and then also the feminist group. There's also a feminist group on campus. Both these groups came out in support to ban Mariam Namazi from speaking. Needless to say, the atheist group said no. She's not Islamophobic. She's speaking out against Islam or Islamic fundamentalists and not Islam itself. And she's trying to shed light on legitimate criticism. So fast forward a little bit, kind of get to the topic here. She did speak. She did speak at Goldsmith, and that's where it kind of leads into this video, Scott, in that she was interrupted on several occasions by members of this Islamic society. Some of the aspects were borderline intimidation, active defiance into what she had to say, without actually listening to what she had to say. The video, if you want to see the whole video, you can go to the Patheos website. That's patheos.com. It is an atheist blog that talks specifically about this issue. So let me go ahead and put this video, kind of set it up for you, Scott. Bam. We should be sharing right now. So this is the Patheos page, obviously. You should be able to see it, right? I'm taking it. And let me get to the video. So this is one of the guys that was interrupting. He was actually the president of the Islamic Society, who in this article they're talking about him resigning for homophobic statements he made on Twitter. But here's the actual video itself.
Society at the university, and I'm proud to introduce Mariam Namazi, who is a writer, broadcaster, human rights activist, and other organizations, and she will be speaking at the title of
Okay, so that's the first spot that I'm going to. You probably weren't able to hear that where you scat. So I had
It
it
was
on mute.
really, really choppy.
Okay. Before I play the next portion of that video, let me go ahead and say that essentially what you get out of that is that what I'm trying to show is that he said, I understand that there's a lot of members from the Islamic Society that are here, and we'll field questions after her presentation. So he's calling for respect in this manner. That, okay, we know you're here. All right. Can you still hear me, Scott?
You are super choppy. Like super digitized, actually.
Okay. Am I still really digital? I don't know. This
Sorry.
technical stuff. I don't know. This is crazy shit. I'll try and continue the best I can. I know the audio is terrible, so I'll try and work with it. Okay, so like I was saying, that initially, basically, he's calling for respect and this sort of thing. She's been invited to speak here. We'll be fielding questions afterwards. He acknowledges the fact that there are members of the Islamic Society of this campus in the audience. He recognizes that. Which you'll see a majority of the people in the room I'm about to show you are from the Islamic Society. They showed in force in order to essentially protest and intimidate Maryam Namazi from speaking. So let's get back to the video here. I know, Scott, you're like staring at yourself like, well, this is weird. So back to the video. I'm going to skip because there's these two, as you can see, these two times here, 1440 time mark and also a 3520. Those are the important things that we should point out. Okay, so we go to, well, I'm going to go a little bit beforehand so you can kind of see here. Oh, shit. We go, pull that back off, and, whoa. Space music.
Ironically, the postmodernist movement.
Okay, that didn't work. Do you have your mic muted, Scott? Oh, what the hell just... Okay.
Well, no, you can't do it with my audio. Never mind.
Okay. I'm gonna try it again now. That was weird. It kind of went feedback. That's why this thing's really hard to do live, ladies and gentlemen. You kind of get crazy. All right. So again, we're about the time mark of 1351. The timestamp that Pathios has noted is 1440. I kind of want to give you a little bit of context beforehand. I think it's important. But here's the video, and she's essentially trying to give the stuff. And as if you look in the front row here, with the exception of the guy in the beanie, he's actually trying to keep civil. But you see this guy here, this guy, this guy, this guy, and you can't see him quite yet, but there's also a row of Muslim women that are in the back as well. So you can kind of see them smirking about what she's talking about. She actually just mentioned people being beheaded. So let's kind of get into it.
Ironically, the postmodernist leftists who are pushing the line have one set of Western politics themselves. They got one day women's equality and the right to criticize the Archbishop, and another for us. We are merely allowed to make demands within the confines of Islam and identity politics. As an ex-Muslim woman, I am supposedly a minority in a minority, but the power never seems to be part of any equation. If we speak, we are labeled native informants, and the far right accuses us of practicing Taqiyya.
Okay. I don't know if you're able to get all that.
It was chopping up pretty bad.
Okay.
Anyways, so let's skip the video. Let's just talk about it because the audio keeps cutting
I'll
out.
explain it. Fucking technical difficulties. Let me unscreen share here.
Indeed.
Okay, so let me describe the video to you. Essentially, what had taken place there. Okay, so she's talking about civil and human rights violations that are taking place in Islamic countries. She references people that are being beheaded because them speaking out against Islam or Islamic fundamentalism, to be more precise in framing this conversation. Okay, one of the gentlemen in the front, when she talks about the beheading, the guy starts laughing. And she turns to him and says, "Oh, so you think it's funny that somebody's getting their head cut off?" Directly confronting him, and he's completely being belligerent, being an asshole, and interrupting every chance that she tries to speak at about the 14:20 mark. Okay.
Okay.
Furthermore, she continues to try and keep. She's trying not to feed into the heckler. She tries to keep continuing the discussion. She's showing footage, images and stuff on the slideshow that she's presenting of women that have been stoned to death. There was an incident in Afghanistan where a woman was stoned to death because of an order that a mullah had or a mullah had presented that she was a heretic and also an infidel. Or an infidel, what's the word? Apostate. She was an apostate.
And what he means is she wouldn't slob my knob, so the bitch got killed.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So these members of the Islamic Society continue to interrupt. At one point, one of the people that is with Mariam Namazi, I'm assuming, I don't know his role specifically in the matter, but he's in the room, and he's like, okay, you don't want to be here? Don't be here. Leave. Okay? Quit interrupting. Let her talk, and they start going back and forth. The guy that's confronting him and was laughing at the fact that this guy was beheaded and so forth, who's essentially the leader, the president of this Islamic Society, come to find out, starts safe place. He keeps saying safe place, interrupting her and keeps saying safe place, in reference to the fact that supposedly Mariam Namazi guest lecturing on this campus is in violation of his safe place, which, okay, he didn't have to be there. That's the first thing you should take from this, is this was not a mandatory event that he needed to attend. There was nothing to do with his grade. His grade wouldn't be affected by this. The Islamic Society was not invited to this. He chose to show up there of his own volition. So, if anything, it should have been the atheist.
Keep going.
Okay. If anything, the atheist group that had guest or invited her to guest lecture, their safe place was being violated. Okay. Further on in the video, at about the 35-minute mark, the same guy ends up, while she is talking to a group further down, because they were interrupting her so bad she couldn't hear herself, that she moved further down to try and talk to the people that wanted to be there. He then turned off her computer. He walked up to the computer, flipped it off, and was like, you know what? I don't want to hear this stuff. I don't want to hear what you have to say, blah, 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 blah. You're Islamophobic and da-da-da-da-da, and being belligerent, okay? At that point, then he gets asked to leave, and then he exits out with one of his other friends who was there that was also interrupting. So that's kind of where the conversation begins to take a hold when they leave. Okay, she starts differentiating. This is the part that they weren't listening to. Throughout her entire discussion, she was differentiating between moderate Muslims, those that are Muslim that are speaking out against Islamic extremism. That's the part that they didn't want to hear, was that Islamic fundamentalist or Islamist, their goal, whoa, that was crazy. Their goal is to homogenize the faith of Islam. Much like we were talking about with ISIS, they want to homogenize Islam as in that their ideology is Islam. That's the rhetoric you're also getting from people like Donald Trump and so forth. They're trying to single out and homogenize their argument. She's trying to differentiate between the two. That you have people that are speaking out against Islamic fundamentalism, despite having groups like the Charlie Hebdo. She references Charlie Hebdo. That there were members of the Charlie Hebdo staff that condemned the actions that were also Muslims, and so forth. And that's the thing that's being missed from this entire argument entirely, is that you have Islamism or Islamic fundamentalism that is essentially squashing out the rest of the population. And then the people that are trying to apply legitimate criticism to Islamism and Islamic extremism are immediately called racist, Islamophobic. And what she references, Maryam Namazi references, is that Islamic extremists are using that sort of narrative that we are being racist and Islamophobic. They're using that in order to silence dissension, silence dissenters from speaking out and providing legitimate criticism. So, to the initial discussion, how do we criticize the flaws of Islam while not alienating the population of moderate Muslims and so forth? How do we do that? And how we do that is by differentiating between the two, differentiating between moderate Islam and Islamic extremism. And I think that the population at Goldsmith University of London would have greatly benefited from hearing Maryam Namazi speak, hearing people like her, hearing people like Sam Harris, who also is adamantly criticizing Islamic fundamentalism. Okay, Arian Hirsi Ali is another one. You also have people like Bill Maher. Bill Maher is speaking out against Islamic extremism. But then all these people are asked to not speak at college campuses because of safe place. They're trying to cater to this political correctness that if you talk about Islam and criticize Islam, you're therefore feeding into Islamophobia. And I think that that's wrong, because you're fighting against Islamism and Islamic extremism, not Islam itself.
Where's the safe place for atheists?
Yeah, exactly right. Their safe place was completely violated in this situation. Yet nobody was talking about that.
That's what I kept thinking while we were going through that. Is you want to sit here and chant safe place like you're being discriminated against or whatever. But what about the atheists who are supposed to be having the gathering, a peaceful gathering? As some of the jokes go, that was militant atheism at its finest. So where's the safe zone for them? Where's the protection for them? This term wouldn't be applied to a discussion of the flaws of Christianity, a rehashing of the Crusades and the Inquisition. If somebody were to come and provide vivid details on that, if you were to do a presentation that involved the Oklahoma City bombing or the Planned Parenthood shooting or any number of right-wing extremist fundamentalist Christian, I guess we could call them, because it would be the same thing, attacks, would there be outcry like this? Would there be backlash from Christians showing up and chanting safe? No, because the shit doesn't apply. Like you said, this is political correctness at its finest, and it's all it is. And looping back into our conversation as a whole, this is where Donald Trump becomes appealing, that he calls out inconsistencies like this and bullshit like this. Granted, Trump's a terrible example and does a poor job of it, but he says it and people listen.
Well, what I was trying to reference specifically with Donald Trump, and what you referenced with groups like ISIS and the goals of Al Qaeda and Osama bin Laden, is they're trying to and what Maryam Namazi was the point she was trying to make in that whole lecture. It's about an hour long. I recommend you watch it. Yeah, it's long. But what she's trying to get at is essentially that these groups are trying to homogenize our view of Islam. That Islamic extremism is Islam. Okay? Donald Trump is doing the same, but from the other end.
But
He's
to the
doing
counterpoint, where's the examples of moderate Islam? You know, we could sit and talk all day about examples of Christianity where churches are actually hosting events for addiction counseling, or any number of things that churches do that benefit benefit their city, benefit society, to help people, to do what we think that the church should actually be doing. Where is the Muslim example of this? Because I don't see it. All I see is people dying, and then Muslim groups standing up afterwards and going, "Hey, well, maybe they should have been Muslim. That's what they get for not being Muslim."
well,
Where does this balance out? This goes, there was the video that came out years ago now, about the silent majority is irrelevant, is what the lady was saying. I can't remember her name at this point. Despite all of this, all this talk about, well, the moderate Muslims are now speaking. What are they doing? I've seen nothing of what they're actually doing. I've seen talk. I've seen no action. Maybe it's the media. Maybe there has been action, and thanks to the way the media is, we haven't seen it. But I've seen nothing this far.
That's the point that it's part of the point that Miriam Damazi is trying to make, is that in essence Islamic extremism and not allowing the discussion, the legitimate criticism of these aspects of Islam, by not allowing that, we're silencing the people that are speaking out against this Islamic extremism within the Muslim world. There was one of the incidents she referenced, Scott, is a situation that was in Iran. Iran is, if you're not familiar with Iran governmental structure, it is a theocratically ran fused society. Scott's got more chocolate. Oh man, he's getting ready. But I lost my train of thought. Iran again. Iran is a theocratic fused society. What that means is that Islam is the law. Okay, Islam scholars are the government. Khomeini is essentially like a figurehead in this sort of Islamic society. Okay, in that, of course, Sharia law and so forth. Well, there was a woman that Miriam Damazi points out that she actively defied and didn't wear her head covering, her hijab or whatever. Didn't wear that. Which was then criticized by the mullahs within the country. There are Muslims that dissent against this. There's a statistic that says that 43% of the 52% of the population in Iran itself disagrees with it being a fused state. They would like it to go back to a secularized state, which is what it was prior to the Islamic Revolution in Iran. Okay. So there are groups that are against Islamic extremism within the confines of Islam. But they're not getting a voice, Scott. That's the problem. We push them into two camps, right? The people that aren't Islam, or Muslims, the people that aren't Muslims that are getting killed by Muslims, and then the people that are doing the killing, which are Muslims. But we don't filter in those gray areas, and it's because of the stifling of conversation and the immediate response from groups like this Islamic Society, that the moment that you even discuss Islam, the moment you even say, "Hey man, we're going to discuss Islamic extremism," okay, they go, "Whoa, you just said Islam, okay? That's racist, okay? That's Islamophobia," and then they shut the argument down. And I think that it does a discredit to those that are moderate and those that are dissenting against, extremism.
And I agree. There's not really much to add to that. I mean, it's hard to. I find myself divided on it because on one hand, I do see and tend to agree with the Islam is bad. Notions, just kind of a knee-jerk reaction without thinking about it. That's just kind of the go-to. But I'm intelligent enough now at this point not to immediately jump at my first thought and run with that. I sit back and analyze stuff first. But the more I analyze it, the more I understand the difference between this small faction of the Islamic society and the rest of them, especially when you put it in comparison to Christians and Judaism and everything else that's out there. Even atheism, I'm sure, has had some type of militant sect that could be. I'm not familiar with it, but I'm sure it's there. It's just I haven't had enough sleep to have this discussion fully, and we're completely out of time.
Right. Let me pose this question before we do shut down. Before we put the brakes on this. What did this Islamic Society group, even if Mariam Namazi didn't show up to guest lecture, what did they think this group was discussing? They were discussing the criticisms of all religions, not just Islam. This is just one guest lecture. Had it been a Christian, a person criticizing Christianity, like you had pointed out, would there have been some sort of Christian society that showed up? I doubt it, because it is implied within the organization calling themselves atheists that they're going to criticize religion. That's what they're going to do. Just like if you're holding an Islamic society meeting, you're going to be discussing Islam, right? If you're offended by Islam, don't show up. It's not your place. It's not your safe place. You don't get to go in there and make demands and silence somebody because you don't agree with what she has to say. Because you're not there. You're not the person that she's trying to talk to. She's guest lecturing to other atheists. So yeah, that's kind of my point in this whole rant.
Indeed. We're gonna have to hit this again.
Okay.
We'll hit this again in a week or two once we've had some time to digest it a bit further and to see how this plays out more. I mean, this is an ongoing debate. This isn't something that's going to go away. So let's and what do you think, listener audience? What are your takes on this? Do you jump to criticizing Islam as a whole because of the actions of the few, or are you capable of making that distinction? Do you care to make the distinction? I think is another very important question that we should be looking at. Do you agree with Trump? Do we need to be kicking these people out? Do you disagree? Should we keep them? Should we love them? Should we make greater strides at making the separation? Are you having a baby, Jimmy? Is that what you're telling me?
I was cradling the members of our society that are Muslim. That's what I was doing there. I don't know. I don't have children. I'm assuming that's how you hold a baby. You hold them up that far, Scott? Is it up that way?
Well, you don't really put your fingers together like that.
I was trying to get it on camera, so it looked weird. It was unnatural. I'm sorry.
I find myself saying this a lot here lately. Just because you're an American, just because you have views and things of yourself, you don't have the right to not be offended. And I think people really need to come to terms with that. You're going to be offended. It's part of life. You need to put your big boy pants on and deal with it. And if you don't like the fact that I just said big boy pants instead of big person pants, that's the problem.
It's true. That is true, Scott. Because you're always going to have what's known as cognitive dissonance. And that is that things that you don't agree with, you're going to adamantly try to oppose. You're going to go the opposite way because it's against what you believe. And it takes an actual cognitive change within your brain in order to avoid that. And
which actually pains me because I'm quoting Fox News when I say that. So.
Oh, goodness gravy, Fox News.
But in other news, check this out. This happened while we were podcasting.
Oh, that right there, ladies and gentlemen. Are you going to introduce this cute one-eyed child to everybody?
New baby boy Logan. He is 2 weeks old today, and then there's another picture of him where he's actually got both of his eyes open. That tongue's still sticking out there, though.
Oh, it's adorable.
Yes, he's a handful.
So that, ladies and gentlemen, is why Scott has been not at the high count. What is we going to categorize these? These are the baby episodes.
The baby episodes.
Yeah,
we'll do this every time one pops out. We get like 4 episodes to, figure it out.
Yeah. So Scott's a little he's out of the loop a little bit as far as news and stuff is concerned, and sleep. He's out of the sleep loop. He's been napping a lot, is what he was saying. So.
But what I'm also out of is time. We are way, way over time. So we have got to shut this down.
Well, with that, ladies and gentlemen, be sure to check out the Facebook page, Pompously Political. Chances are, if you're watching this, you probably got it through the Facebook page. Also, check out the website, polypompous.com. Check out the Twitter, which I just changed the password so I could get in, so I'll have to give you the new password, Scott, is at polypompous. Check us out, tweet us, and let us know what you think of this episode. Do you want to hear more on Islamism? Again, all those questions Scott posed. With that, without further ado, have you guys a merry December week.
Take care. Keep thinking.